Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel, We're the Movie Couple. I'm Wendy.
And I'm Dustin, and I'm wearing the gloves again, so don't get too weirded out.
Tell them why though.
Oh, well, before
Just
in
in
the
case
last
they
video
need
I
to see
said that one of the big things that's happening is since I'm washing my hands a lot, probably a little too much, I guess, my hands are starting to get really chapped, really cracked and bleeding, so every now and again I wash them really good, and then I put a whole bunch of lotion on, and I put the gloves on, and then I can wash my hands without washing the lotion, and I can wash my hands as many times as I want without having to ruin my hands.
And there you go. So in this video, we're going to be reviewing Tigertail that is available on Netflix now. It is directed by Alan Yang and stars Tai Ma and Kristen Cole. Tigertail is about a Taiwanese factory worker leaving Taiwan to seek opportunities in America. He struggles to find connections and balancing life and responsibility. If you saw our trailer reaction, Tigertail hits close to home for me. I am Taiwanese. I was born and raised in Taiwan, and this is one of the few times where I've seen, it may be the only time honestly, where I've seen Taiwanese being spoken in an American film. And that is, it actually caught me off guard in the trailer because I understood it and I didn't realize why it sounded not like, it didn't sound like Mandarin. I was like, what is, oh my god, it's Taiwanese.
It's something that you're familiar with,
yeah,
but you just haven't had that much connection to in such a long time.
Yeah.
That must have been a really interesting sensation to have. I mean, because I can't even think of times to when, like, something like that has happened to me. You know, something that you experienced in your childhood that still has a very close connection to you, but then all of a sudden, like, many years later, you're like, oh my gosh, I know what that is.
Yeah, because really the only time I would hear it is maybe when I'm talking to my parents on the phone. Rarely though, because they mostly speak Mandarin to me. I heard it a lot when you and I went back home to Taiwan. And it's that familiarity. It's like it brought back the childhood. So there's a lot of nostalgia factor writing on this, aside from like, you know, like this is a story based on you know, someone growing up in Taiwan and coming to America, kind of much like me, similar yet not quite, because I didn't like work in a factory.
Yeah, you came just one generation later after what this movie took place. So
technically, yes.
I mean, this guy could pretty much have been like your father.
Yeah, or it's really crazy because like as we're watching it and we realized the time frame of the movie, I kind of went, oh, that's why I experienced certain things throughout, you know, my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Now I, like, you know, you don't really understand, and I was so young when I left.
Yeah.
I was really young when I left, so I like, it's kind of a blur now, and this movie triggered a lot of memories. So this is a multi-generational movie, I would say. It does follow Taima's character from him being young, growing up, and basically he grew up with his grandparents in the rice field, like working in the rice field, because his mom had to go and get a job. His dad died, and his mom's like, I can't watch you, because he was like so little, and look for a job. Like, I can't just leave my kid home. So, you know, he was left with his grandparents. So essentially they brought him up until finally mom was able to find a job. And
he was actually able to work with her.
Yeah, and then he was, I would say, like teenage, maybe a little bit older, like 16, 17 maybe even 18. Throughout his childhood, he did meet a girl, Ah Yuan, and they have this already connection via friendship, but as they got older, the friendship turns into romance.
Yeah.
And they had this whole thing about wanting to, you know, like... you know, go to America, seek different opportunities, and he wants to help his mom retire. He doesn't like that she's working in the factory. So he starts... What's really interesting about this movie is that Taima's character started off as just a vibrant young man with a lot of dreams and goals, and that kind of shifted once the third element came into his life, which was the boss's daughter. his boss heard that he wanted to go to America, wanted to seek opportunities. He said, I would like my daughter to go to America to also seek opportunities. You seem responsible. Why don't we just put the two of you together?
Very
Just
much
like
an
that.
arranged marriage kind of thing.
And it was, because by the time they got there, they had already been married. She was talking to somebody else, and she referred to him as my husband. And I was like, whoa. And, there was this whole thing where she was, like, venting to her friend, like, we don't really have anything in common. But then also, back then, in other people's eyes, or I would say maybe a Taiwanese person's eyes, there wasn't anything really wrong with an arranged marriage, especially to an older person, because that's the way it was. My grandparents, on one of my parents' side, I won't say which one, because that's too personal, I feel like, they were in an arranged marriage, but and I've said this already, they luckily had a lot in common, and it was a really great, awesome relationship, and I love them dearly. And it, her older friend was like, well, once you spend some time together, you're bound to find some sort of common interest. And it's like, oh, that's not how it works now.
Yeah, very true. I mean, it's just also a different way of looking at marriage and being a couple and getting married. It's just the fact, and we've kind of heard this kind of story before. What happens, the guy goes off to a different, to find his fortune, so to speak. But to see this exact same story being told from a different cultural point of view is very fascinating. And to kind of understand this is why it's so important to tell stories like this. It really makes us more connected, more understanding about the human condition is true no matter where you're from.
This is also a way to look into if you grew up with a very stoic father, and you wonder why and how he is like that, and you can maybe watch this movie and go, once upon a time they were charming and liked to dance and have fun and made jokes and was a little lived a bit of a crazy life, and then responsibility and adulthood and other things set in where it really took this character and did a 180 on him.
Yeah.
And Taima's character, as he gotten older, I think the pressure of needing to be the provider for the family and being not trapped, but being in this marriage. This is just basically not how he saw his coming to America and the way his life was going to be.
Yeah.
And it's a little depressing, and he kind of became very hardened in a shell, and that unfortunately reflected harshly with his daughter, who he doesn't have a connection with at all. And that's what I like about this movie when I said multi-generational, where we see him being young and his relationship with his mom, which was very, very close to his relationship with this other girl versus the person he actually wanted to be with, to what his relationship now with his daughter, where he's just trying to push her to be the best, but he is so hard on her.
Yeah. And it's also just tough too, because deep down inside, this is also just a movie about choices that have been made. And everyone, of course, goes through this in life. Oh, what would have happened if I made a different choice? Well, I can't really go back on that choice, so now I'm just going to try to shove this square peg into this round hole as well as I can, and I'm going to just have to live with it. But you don't really realize the damage that it does to not only the peg, but the hole.
Yeah,
kind
really.
of a thing, not only are you doing damage to yourself and who you are, but you're also doing damage to your family and the ones, that you love.
Yeah. And this movie, it really touched me because it really, I like that it covered, his life's history of his experiences up to today, and whether or not you want to keep watching because you want to know, can he reconnect with certain people? Can he fix that relationship that he has with his daughter? And interestingly enough, I felt like this movie, it sat about an hour and a half, maybe a little bit more. It could have stood to be maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes longer, because I would have loved to see more of an insight into his daughter's life, who she is played by, Angela is the character's name, played by, it's either Kristen or Christine Ko, and there was two scenes in particular that I really, really enjoyed, but I feel like it's spoilers, so I can't say it here.
Yeah.
But it's a really emotional, and it made me feel like certain times, looking back, and I've had similar situations with my dad. And my dad very much fits in the mold of stoic dad. Not so much now. You've met him, and he's the version you met was very lively, very lively. Where I was like deathly afraid of my dad, always.
Well, it also comes down to something when what is the solution for these kind of situations that millions of people are constantly in? The answer is tell your story.
Tell your story.
Talk to people, to communicate, to be able to help people understand where you're coming from, I think is what they're trying to push. In the moral of today's story, so to speak, is tell your story. It's very important for people to know where you came from, what made you, what decisions did you make, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I just think that's a beautiful kind of moral to kind of have in a story, is that tell your story. That's the whole point.
And this movie definitely told his story, and it told a part of his daughters. I really craved that look into Angela's life. I really craved into, they were trying to explain, honestly, the parallel of these like kind of generational gaps. And you may be so far from age, but you also may be so similar at the same time without even knowing it, and you're not speaking. They have so much similarities, and I wish they had, the movie did a great job of showing the parallels of the two characters, the two main characters, which was Angela and Taima's character. But they didn't give us enough on Angela's, like a look in on hers, for me, for my preference, to kind of really show that. And I know that they wanted to, keep focus on maybe just the one person story. Yeah. And I liked it, but it felt like it wasn't completely complete. It was beautifully shot, but I felt like a lot of pieces were missing. Although, in traditional, how do I want to say this? As always, Taima made me cry, especially at the end of the movie, where he doesn't even have to do much of anything.
He doesn't have that many lines.
He doesn't know, and it's just like, he's so expressive through like the most subtle expressions, and I think that's like one of the harder things, like for an actor to do, is to, to do that through the lens. Like, I think that's hard. Yeah. That's harder than having like a whole monologue, like 10-page long sides that you have to memorize, So he's made me cry in Farewell. Cried a lot in Mulan. Both of his scenes made me cry. Great. Not both. He's had more, but in Mulan. But made me cry in a lot of them. And this one, at the end, I was just kind of like, dang it, I'm going to cry. So, time out for
Gets
Best
the
Asian
Crying
Dad
Award.
Actor.
You've made the most people cry. Here's your award.
Congratulations. Yeah. Overall, I still enjoy this movie. I think a lot of it really hooked me on the nostalgia feel of, like the story, that it being a Taiwanese person's story, and I found that just really, really a lot of fun to watch, but I felt like they also could have given us just a little bit more. Yeah. Your rating on the movie?
Well, seeing how it's already out on Netflix, I'm going to say, you know what? Go ahead and stream it. If this is the kind of movie that you're interested in, if you're in the mood for kind of like a character building, life connection, something that you can have a personal connection with, then this is a good movie to watch. Yeah.
I'm going to give this a check it out, because I think it's an important story for people to see. I think if you it's a different way of storytelling, because we don't really see things from this side of like I'm saying, like a Taiwanese centric film usually is seen as a foreign film, but I feel like I can call this an American film, which is what made it really like appealing to me. So that is our rating, and that is our review for the movie Tigertail. Make sure you check it out. It's available on Netflix right now. Go ahead and support it. And thank you for watching and supporting our channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other new any other new videos from us, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.